Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. Welcome to another session on French philosophers. Today, we have a leading philosopher whose work has been significantly impacting contemporary philosophy, politics, and mathematics. Today, we have Alain Badiou. So, Badiou was born in 1937. He is a French philosopher, and his thoughts are a blend of elements of Marxism, existentialism, structuralism, which we'll be looking into, and set theory. And it's a very unique framework to understand the reality of philosophy. Badiou is best known for his concept of the event or the role of mathematics in his work and his rejection of relativism, often called postmodern relativism in this sense, in favor of universal truths. And so his philosophy really challenges a lot of the prevailing ideas in contemporary political theory as well, and he is one of the most radical thinkers of our times in a sense. And so we're going to be looking at Badiou's major contributions, his intellectual influences, and his relevance in the modern era. Okay, so Badiou is a intellectual, and he has significantly shaped politics and philosophy in the 20th century. He was influenced by the 1968 protests in France that kind of turned him into a radical leftist thought, and it inspired his commitment to political activism and a lot of revolutionary changes as well. He also started to follow Marxism and Maoism and very radical theories here that emphasized class struggles and historical transformations. And unlike many philosophers, he was very into mathematics. He wanted to use it, particularly set theory, which is, I will provide you with the exact definition here. Set theory is a branch of mathematical logic that that is informally described as a collection of objects. So in simple terms, it is a branch where you can learn about sets and their properties. Yeah, and he used this to serve as the true language of ontology, which is the study of being. And he also rejected postmodernism that grew from his understanding of the of his arena. He was radical a lot of the times. He was very differing from the contemporary beliefs at any point in his career, and so we see a lot of rejections in Badiou, his rejection of postmodernism, and instead looking for universal truths and transformative events. Yeah, so just as a summary, his philosophical ideas would be ontologies in mathematics, so the study of human and natures through set theories and mathematics, and his understanding of the event. This is a central concept to his philosophy, and it is a radical kind of rupture that really creates possibilities for truth and transformation. I will actually give you the exact definition of Badiou's event. Give me just a moment. Yeah, so for Badiou, an event is a multiple which basically does not make sense according to the rules of situation, in other words, existence. So it's when a rupture happens from reality. It's something that is totally abnormal, on the edge of the void, something that should not happen, that some suddenly and drastically happened to excluded parts of reality. And so he believed that this could create new possibilities and truth in this sense. He also believed that truths emerged from transformative events, and that individuals must be faithful about change. He also identified 4 areas where truth emerges: politics, science, art, and love. Okay, let's look into his most famous work. One of the most important and one of the most complex works of his is Being an Event, written in 1988. And it is a deep exploration of ontology, again, the study of being, and the role of the event in shaping reality. Yeah, so again, he presented ontology in a very mathematical concept, in in a not a singular but a static entity that could be structured through mathematics. I am not even going to attempt to explain this. It is very, very complicated and very honestly quite over my head. But if you are interested, I could definitely look into it in order to simplify it for you. But to be frank, I feel like I probably would not be doing a good job in helping you there, and so I would definitely recommend some books, and I will talk about this just a bit later. And yeah, Badiou kind of uses all his frameworks in to to understand revolution, scientific discoveries, and breakthroughs of innovation and art. And yeah, it just illustrates how true change occurs when individuals are committed to truths that can be revealed by these events. And in a lot of ways, his ideas are very ambiguous, very interesting, and very nuanced. It's very hard to try to explain it just because it is so in depth. But one of the famous lines in his work is, "There is only one event, the event of being or being itself." And so being is not, it is always transforming, always changing, introducing new possibilities and truths. And for him, there are always existences of the event, the true rupture of existing order that reveals a deeper truth in our world and a deeper possibility. Yeah, and being and events also had a lot of impact. We're going to be looking into some specific thinkers it had an impact on, but its impact on political theory and ontology and relativism versus objectivism in a sense continues in modern thought as well. We also have his second book written in the 21st century. I believe this is our first author who published a book in the 21st century, or one of the first. But yeah, it's called Logics of the World. Very consistent with his love of mathematics, I think, but it expands on Badiou's ontology. It tries to explain how different worlds interact, how different truths are shown in varying contexts. And so through his work, we see some new ideas raised here. Badiou tries to argue that reality consists of different worlds with unique structures and logics. And so, in a sense, the book examines how truth appears in different worlds and how individuals must try to find answers in between these different appearances and try to reach a deeper understanding that can contain all of these different worlds. And Badiou also continues to develop his ideas on political revolutions again and applying his understanding of being and different worlds into modern events that continue to disrupt the established order. And here a famous line is, "To think is to subvert, to begin again." And so his ideas of existing structures and ruptures and new breaking possibilities again are shown in these quotes. Yeah, this is very similar. We'll be looking at philosophers that adopted his ideas. Yeah, so we have Slavoj Zizek, and he was impacted in his approach to Marxism and his understanding of politics. And yeah, he tried to apply Badiou's logic and ideas into his philosophy and politics. We also have Malia Sachs, and he is also a philosopher impacted by Badiou. He also rejected relativism like Badiou and tried to explore different ruptures and transformations in thought and reality. Yeah, so Badiou has a lifelong legacy for his revolutionary ideas and all the new events, ideas that he raised. His political philosophy continues to shape the world, and it tells us to kind of have radical breaks with the existing order, not just gradual reforms. And although he might be too radical to some people in some cases, I think this is a new kind of figure that we also need to understand, like many other figures like Sartre, for example, and Camus that we have looked at. Yeah, and his contemporaries at the time were Derrida, Foucault, and Deleuze, all these different thinkers. And Yeah, and they were very different. He diverged a lot with each of these writers, but I think a lot of them agreed with his ideas of the power structure because of the socio-economic conditions of the time. Yeah, and they were kind of critical in these ideas, and his work just continues to have modern significance with those of his contemporaries. So a bit more into his political ideas. I just wanted to raise this because he was a famous revolutionary in his days. He rejected representative democracy, and he believed that modern democracy really served the interest of the ruling class and just don't bring about the real changes that people need. And so he wanted true revolutions with radical changes rather than compromises with existing power structures. So he would have said, no, the king can't stay, the president cannot stay, they must all leave, we must have our own government. And he really focused on universal truths and wanted to apply these ideas to all human experiences. And while I would not talk about rights or wrongs, I just want to say that his works continue to inspire debates in a lot of different ideas and arenas, and his transformative events and universal truth really are very different from the dominant trends in contemporary philosophy right now. His ideas on political activism, such as anti-capitalist movement or revolutionary movement, and his love for art and literature and scientific innovation continue to have a lasting legacy, varying in its positive and negative impact in the world right now. Yeah, as a further reading and further resources, I have brought, of course, Being an Event, Logics of the World by Badiou. We also have his other books, The Communist Hypothesis and the Meaning of Sarkozy. Obviously, tread these very, very carefully because these are again written by a very, very radical man. Different from a lot of the philosophers that we currently know, like Plato and Aristotle, because he is living very living currently in the 21st century, living very close to today's political fabric, and therefore it is hard for us as individuals living here right now to judge bias. And so I would just say, tread very light into these ideas, but I think engaging with all these different works will give you a varying perspective on different ideas, on truth, on change, on universal emancipation and freedom, and it will continue to have impacts on contemporary philosophy and will remain relevant throughout our lifetime as well. Yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. I think Badiou really is a challenger. He uses a lot of different ideas, a lot of radical ideas, and continues to try to emphasize the need for powerful changes in modern philosophy that and some things we could learn from, some things we could think about, some things are in debate, some things are not. And I think it's very important that we continue to learn about philosophers like Badiou, because he's considered one of the greatest philosophers in France. I thought it was only right to bring him also to our discussion table. Thank you so much for watching, guys. That was a great opportunity to look into a philosopher who I would not have been able to have a chance without this video. And so I'm very honored to be able to present this. I hope you stay curious and that you continue to learn about him, all our other French philosophers, and that you'll stay tuned in for our next series. Thank you so much, and bye-bye.